February 25th, 2025. This is the S&P 500 E-futures mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. There was a lot of volume. In the pre-market, it looked like it was oscillating sideways. Then similar to what happened yesterday, there was a sell-off, kind of a bounce, another sell-off, and then a choppy two legs up, kind of into a consolidation choppy trading range. Well, I didn't really draw it as a trading range. That's how I drew it today. Found a big leg down, kind of these measured moves made. And then this is the only trade that I took today. It was a poor trade, bad setup, and there was actually some really good setups previously, and then I ended up taking a bad setup. Then around, I think about 9:30 or 9:40, I had to stop trading because I had to actually step away from my desk. So all this analysis after the fact, this is actually done after the market closed. So it's hard to really say for sure whether I would have taken these trades or what I would have thought of them in real time. So up until that time, this is all real-time analysis. I'm going to get into the trades right now. Took one loss and I just didn't trade anymore. There was no economic data to really move the markets. Trump did come out and say a few things, and I think he came out around 1 o'clock Pacific Standard for a press conference, but he kind of does that sporadically. Seems like on a daily occurrence. So it's hard to really prepare for those because what he says could cause the markets to jump one way or the other. So the pre-market, it was just kind of had found this green leg down, break, another push up, then down. So it's just kind of chopping sideways. Then on the open, it kind of opens flat. It looked like it had made two legs up. It creates a new high here because this is actually higher than this high. There's a second entry long here, but it's a bad signal bar because it's an inside bar. And then it makes a new high here just by, I think, one tick. Creates a first entry long, pullback, second entry long. Also makes a localized new low. First entry short, pullback, second entry short. I thought this is actually a possible trade because I like that it pushed below the EMA. This is technically the signal bar for the second entry short, but then it caused the second entry long failure with decent signal bar close. I thought this is two key entry points. EMA is kind of flat, so it doesn't really help too much, but you do have enough room to lows from here, 59.99 all the way down to 59.97. So there is enough room for a quick 1 point scalp. So it's a possible trade. I didn't take it though. Then it starts flushing down what I think is this orange down channel as a break, and it pushes back up. Pushes back up when I think is this green up channel. It's first entry long, excuse me, first entry short, second entry short, but this is a bad signal bar. It's kind of far from the EMA, coming off a really big green up channel. Not green up channel, but big green candle. I just don't really like this. Doesn't give you a lower high, unfortunately, and it pushes down on this orange down channel. At this point, I wasn't too confident that this orange down channel is actually the range to be playing or the channel to be playing. I drew a preliminary line for this yellow trend line down, and I kind of matched and created a channel here, but I didn't really trust it too much because there's not too many confirmations at this point. So it pushes down to this orange down channel, creates a first entry long, pullback. Technically, you have a second entry long here, but it feels really far away. It's below the EMA. You'd be counter trend trading on an obvious sell-off. There is a new low here. It's a first entry short, pullback, second entry short. Second entry short, unfortunately, it does tick. Unfortunately, the great thing is it does tick one tick above and then it flushes down. I just didn't like the pullback during the life of the candle. It went back to the halfway point. So there's no setup or no safe trade in my opinion, because in real time, you don't know if it's actually, because it looks like it's kind of bottoming out here because it already tried a few times to break below it and it could at least push back up. So unfortunately, the tail here made me kind of negate the trade. It looked like it would have worked though. Then prices continue moving. You do have a new low here. First entry short, second entry short. Bad signal bar. It's just too congested. Pushes up, breaks to the new high. So right now I'm playing this yellow down channel, and it looks like this yellow down channel fits pretty well. This green one shows up later, and it creates new highs, a first entry long pullback, second entry long. Unfortunately, you don't want to go long below this EMA when it's a clearly bearish downtrend. It's also a new low here. It's a first entry short pullback, second entry short. I thought this is a possible trade as well. There's two legs up, bounce off the bottom. It failed to break through the EMA. Unfortunately, the line that I drew doesn't really, this yellow one, doesn't create or give another key entry point. And even this green one, which I eventually drew, also doesn't have a touch bounce rejection. But I did see as 2 legs up. This is a really small signal bar. It's only about 8 ticks. Well, relatively speaking, it's 8 ticks, so it's small for today, but it has a strong close, enough for a quick scalp. So I thought this is a possible trade. Just move down, bounce here. That's where I start to establish this green down channel. I drew this touch, and then it touches here after it came up to here, and it looked like it fit semi well down here. So it has pretty good touch confirmation here, just a barely touch confirmation here. Push up in this orange up channel. It's a new low here. It's a first entry short, pull back, second entry short. It's actually a technical lower high, because if you zoom in, it looks like it's a break below here, first entry short, pull back, second entry short, then it creates a lower high. I call it an almost trade because even if you count it as a first entry short, second entry short, I didn't like the fact that it's clearly in this orange up channel, and I have an overshoot here, but nothing to say that it couldn't have actually been here. And these guys are pressing and bouncing against the midline. So in real time, I wasn't sure if I was going to see a bounce because it's right at the EMA. Unfortunately, it didn't break below and push back up because I don't fully trust this green down channel yet because it's only 1 touch here, 2 touch. Doesn't touch here. This is actually a 3rd touch, so it's a little early. So I call it an almost trade. In this case, it would have worked. So I saw this trade. I knew I didn't take it. I didn't take this almost trade. And there's this other trade here. So I'm feeling a little bit of FOMO because this is a big move down. You could have had some runners if you were able to get in any of these kind of setups. Creates a new low. It's a first entry short, pullback, second entry short. Second entry short, I thought this is actually a decent setup. Also, it's a possible trade because now it's confirming this green down channel pretty well. 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch. You could argue there's a 4th touch, but I saw these two together, and this is definitely a 4th touch. Break of this red down channel needs to test the low. First entry short, second entry short, decent signal bar. I'm thinking it's going to be pushing down enough for a 1-point scalp. So here I would have gotten in. It had to sit through this, and likely, if you didn't get out on this one, you would have likely gotten out on this one. There's also this EMA kind of holding prices down. So I'm actually thinking the green channel is actually a better channel fitting than this current yellow one. The yellow one does, give you the good idea of the bias. It's just the green one fits pretty well. Unfortunately, it doesn't fit as well up here. So I'm actually kind of playing both, but the green one's actually fitting the best right now. Pushes down and starts consolidating, breaks sideways through the green ones, then it breaks through the yellow one. So this, unfortunately, didn't have a clean break, so I'm not so sure it's going to come back down and test the low of this yellow or this green, because when there's a break, these big impulsive breaks on these like small shortened trend channels, you can expect another test of the low or the high, depending on the direction. But since it broke sideways and it's starting to creep back up, it looks like there isn't as likely another test of the low, in my opinion. Starts pushing up, no second entries here, pushes, bounces here, where I think there might be a support area. So I'm thinking there might be a potential range setting up. It does a 3rd touch confirmation and a measured move. So I thought this is actually a setup because it's a break of this orange, test of the high, made 2 legs down. So I'm thinking there's going to be 1 leg up, 2 legs down, another, which is right here, another orange leg up to match this guy. So another attempt up before maybe a resumption of this yellow down channel. It sets up a nice setup. So it made a measured move, 1 leg down, pull back, 2 legs down. So this is clearly second entry long about to happen, which I think it was about to happen. Triple test, 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, because I was thinking I might be in a range. And in the measure move, triple test, and EMA with a decent signal bar. It looked like it would have worked. And if you didn't take this trade, which I didn't, unfortunately, there's this trade, a higher low. It moved 2 ticks below and then reverses, closes at the high of this way, but it engulfs it completely. So I thought this is actually a decent setup that I should have taken as well. I left it alone. It was a strong push above the EMA, and it also would have worked. So you had 2 decent setups right here, another decent setup over here. So I've kind of bypassed or missed out on a few setups, and it kind of comes back to haunt me because it sets up for my poor trade that you're going to see coming up. Pushes up, so it looks like it's two legs up, one leg up, break, two legs down, and another leg up. Hits this consolidation area, first entry long, pullback. Technically, our second entry long is way down here, but it doesn't really feel safe to go long necessarily. I need a break above the EMA or a stronger confirmation. You get a higher low here, but it's not very convincing because it looks like it might be running into the resistance of this green down channel. Visually, you do have a new low, actually by the technical count. First entry short, push up. Second entry short by the technical count, push up. Then you have a lower high. Lower high, unfortunately, didn't trigger below this guy. The only way for me to feel like this lower high would have been a good trade is if it didn't have this big body. I like that it moved one tick, two ticks above this previous, but it shouldn't have pushed so far down. It should have kind of closed right here and at the lows. Then I would have felt there's enough more momentum to push down. But when you see this in real time, first of all, this candle is pretty big. It's 28 ticks, so that's already huge. And then I need to see a break below this one at this point. It doesn't break and it reverses up. And I was thinking I'm on this yellow up channel, so there's really no trade here, even though it's technically a lower high here. Pushes up, and that sets up for my one and only trade, but it was a poor trade. I saw this as a break. Actually, I tossed rejection, first entry long pullback, second entry long, second entry long. This second entry long technically hasn't failed yet. On the candle, when this one opened and it flushed down, before this candle closed, and there was still a lot of ticks remaining out of 2000, I entered right at the low, expecting another move down. Now, in hindsight, and after taking a loss in this trade, I realized the folly of my analysis. Okay, so this green down channel made one attempt down, second attempt down, but it's having trouble right now, right? It's not two clean pushes down. So I'm not sure that this green down channel is going to test necessarily before a test of the break of this yellow up channel, because this needs to test this low, but this also needs to test the high. So it's already conflicting biases. This is a break, first entry, second entry. There is no real reason to believe it's going to push down, especially after the close of this bar on the failure, which hasn't occurred yet. If it closed lower, then there's a higher chance of a failure, but you can see at the end, bulls were able to buy it back up. And then when I entered, it was too early to even take this trade because this candle hadn't really fully developed yet. So I jumped the gun for no reason. And then of course I get stopped out. My stop was actually above this guy and not above this guy. So it was a, let's see, it's a 4-point loss, which is pretty big. After I saw that, I kind of looked throughout the day. I think this is a bad setup and I missed all the good setups previously. And so that I think definitely affected my mentality, especially also looking at the trades from the last few days. I've been taking some mediocre setups and missing some decently good setups. And so that definitely has affected me. But then it pushes down, it creeps down on this transparent channel. There's a new low, first entry short, second entry short. The second entry short, I wished it at least touched the EMA, but even if it did, the way it closed, there's not that much room to localize low. So unfortunately, there's no trade here. I marked it though, because in real time I was wondering about it. Pushes down, kind of reverses, created this measured leg down. This yellow down channel technically has tested its low now. So this huge yellow sell-off, this channel here, made one push up, pull back, second push, then it's two legs down, finally tests the low of this guy, and now looks like it's reversing. We have a new low, first entry short, technically a second entry short, it's a back signal bar, no setup here. Starts pushing up. I drew this yellow up channel, and it seems to fit pretty well. You have a second entry long here, but the signal bar is terrible. It's far from the EMA, no setup. As an overshoot here, first entry long pullback, second entry long. Unfortunately, there's no setup. It's just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. You could also reset the count here. First entry, second entry, but this is a good setup for a second entry long. But after this overshoot, similar to previous, like you need to be cautious on this overshoot because you might have a corresponding symmetric overshoot on this side. So it's too early to decide to go long. Probably with a higher low, then it would be safer to take. But you don't get it, kind of pushes down, chops around, starts moving what I think is this transparent down channel. It didn't color it in because it wasn't really firm and didn't really set up. starts reversing back up. You do have a localized new high. First entry long, pullback, second entry long, second entry long. This is your signal bar. Follow through with the trigger bar is nice, except now you don't really have any room before you hit the EMA. Even though the EMA is flat, it just feels a little dicey. You don't get a higher low, unfortunately, till about here. Higher low, but it's too far from the setup to really be of any value. Pushes up. It starts pushing up on this yellow up channel. There's no clean setups that I saw. Breaks, starts moving down this orange down channel. You do have a new high, first entry long pullback. You have a second entry long here, but it's this bad signal bar below the EMA. Just kind of sit on hands. Also, this is analysis after the fact because I had to step away from my desk right around, I think, 9:40. So this is actually after I've come back and reanalyzed the charts. So it's a little bit less realistic in my opinion, but the analysis after the fact is still worth it. It's a new low. It's a first entry short, second entry short. In real time, I think this would have been a decent trade. It's a possible trade because it's a break of this orange down channel. One attempt up, second attempt up, decent signal bar. EMA is holding. Close, and it's only a 10 tick bar, so I think this would have been a worthwhile trade. Break of the orange, test of the low, comes back, starts pushing up on this green up channel. Then it has a spike, and it kind of flattens a little bit. No clean setup that I can see. You do have a new high, first entry long pullback, technically a second entry long, but it's kind of below the EMA, out in the middle of nowhere. A little ambiguous. I need a higher low to feel confident taking long, but even then, what is the bias in the context? It's a little bit sideways. You do have so it's a new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long technically fails on this candle. So this lower high confirms the second entry long failure, but it's also a new low here, first entry short pullback. On the same candle, it creates a second entry short. Unfortunately, this is what I consider an almost trade because there's no room to localize low. So unfortunately, you can't really take, in my opinion, you can't really take it. Plus the body is too far from the EMA. So it feels like it's exhausted a little bit. Prices move down, hits this consolidation area, breaks, bounces, first entry short, pull back. You really don't have a technical second entry short. Hits another consolidation trading range. And it gives you a failed second entry short. So it's from here, it's a new low, it's a first entry short, pullback, second entry short, failure. But this candle is huge. This is a 24 tick candle. It's already near the highs of the localized high. So first entry short, second entry short, failure. It feels a little risky. I was thinking if this channel was in play, I wouldn't want to try to go long into this potential resistance point. But it does rally up. So I don't know if there was someone speaking or some kind of news event because these candles printed really quickly. So it creates a new high, it's a first entry long, then it kind of hits this consolidation sideways trading again, breaks to the high, pushes back down, first entry long, pullback, second entry long, below the EMA. It's a little ambiguous, not too fond of whatever is going on here. Pushes up on this orange up channel. You have a new high, first entry long, pullback, second entry long, failure. So I'm expecting the test of this orange up channel high. Looks like it made one attempt, at least broke out here, made one attempt here, maybe a second attempt, but in the technical counts, 1, 2, lower high. So this failure on the second entry long, I wouldn't necessarily think of going short yet because it's still above the EMA. Then this candle prints, a little ambiguous, but finally this candle prints, which is a lower high, moved one tick above, flushed down, engulfed this one completely with a strong close. I think in real time, this would have been an aggressive trade, possible trade, aggressive though, because it clearly shows bearish momentum. You do have enough push to potentially get your 1 point scalp, but this is I think 19 tick candle. It feels a little dicey, but I think it is a possible trade because it ended pretty well. Here you wanted to sit through this noise and then finally get your scalp out of that one. Kind of pushes down on this yellow down channel, no real setups, and this is kind of creeping toward the end of the day. It's this consolidation area. This is the last 10 minutes where you ideally don't want to be taking any new setups. You probably can be managing a runner, but I wouldn't be taking any trades at this point. It pushes into the close. So A pretty high volume day. Most of the good setups I think happened in the early half. Unfortunately, I didn't take them, and I ended up taking a kind of a crappier, terrible trade, and then I wasn't able to trade for the rest of the day. But seeing what setups I could find after the fact, I'm kind of okay. I don't feel too much FOMO, but it kind of sucks to end the day on the red. So hopefully that was helpful.